What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? Welcome to Friday night. It is 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and you're at your place for the Unfiltered experience with myself, Christopher Rausch, your no excuses coach, and I'm joined by... Where's Scott? Where's Scott Goyette? You can see my kitty cat in the background. What's up? Where's Scott Goyette? Scott Goyette is still in Tanzania, so we wish Scott all the best. We have an amazing show for you tonight. So whether you're watching this live or on the replay, thank you for being here in the Unfiltered experience. As always, to be a part of the Facebook community, to be able to get a part of the audio podcast, go to www.theunfilteredexperience.com. theunfilteredexperience.com. That's a place you always go to. And so far, we've already got in the house. We got Glenda in the house. She says, what's up? Hey, y'all. What's up, Glenda? Thank you so much for being here. I hope you're having a blessed week, and I hope you're having a great Friday night where you are coming in from. I think you're coming in from Georgia, if I'm not mistaken, if you're still there. We got Hooked on Humanity. We got Nelly in the house. She goes, is it Friday already? Yes, it is. She goes, hello, all. Thank you for being with us very much, Nelly, and with Hooked on Humanity. And just to let you guys know here, just a little quick commercial before we get started. This show is brought to you by the folks at Help Heal Humanity, helphealhumanity.org. It happens to be a brilliant organization that I'm a part of. I've been a part of this amazing organization for now about 3 years on the board of directors. And the reason why I joined it is I had the opportunity to interview Serena Buffalino, the CEO and the founder, here both on this show and also my Raw and Unscripted show. And I immediately fell in love with her enthusiasm, her passion, her tenacity, her drive, everything that she wanted to do and go out there and actually make the world a better place by healing humanity. And through the conversation, she said, if I start a USA board, would you be interested in joining the organization? And I said, absolutely. So we always bring this to you every single week. When you get value out of this particular episode, we encourage you to go over to www.helphealhumanity.org and donate what you can, whether it's $5, $25, if you want to sponsor a kid, or if you want to donate $200, then what you will get from me as a free hour of my coaching time as part of that gift. So you make a $200 tax deductible donation, you help heal humanity, and you get an hour of my time to talk about whatever it is you want in the area of coaching and mindset and attitude and success and goal setting and whatever it is you want to do. So together we can raise the vibration of this planet, because that's our intent every single week when Scott's here as well, is that we want to elevate our souls and our opportunity to have better confidence and more clarity in what it is that we're doing and where we've been, but more importantly, where we're going. I think we all have a responsibility in this world to make sure that we are leveling up and helping one another level up, no matter what the news or any of the politicians say. Together, we are humanity. No, whether you're black, white, straight, gay, Republican, Democrat, together we all bleed the same color. You rip us down the middle, we're all the same on the inside, and together we can help heal humanity. So be sure to go check us out if you're interested in becoming a board member or getting interested in involved in the organization. By all means, check it out there. We have volunteer positions all the time, and we would love to have you as part of this organization. I know a few of you guys have reached out and checked it out, so thank you for that. And without any further ado, we're going to be getting into this particular show tonight. We got Andrea in the house. She says, good evening. Thank you, Andrea, for being here. My hearts and my blessings go out to you, my dear. Yes, Glenda says she is calling in from Carrollton, Georgia. So we got Carrollton, Georgia coming in on this broadcast. We got Kelsey Matheson. What's up, Kelsey? Good to have you here. Kelsey was a guest on the show just a couple of weeks ago. So thank you for being here and spending your time with us. And she gives us 2 little red hearts. So now that we got all that stuff out of the way, thank you guys for being here. Since Scott isn't here, I got a special treat for you guys. She's actually been a guest on the show a few times at the very least. She's a proud sponsor of the show as well, with her enthusiasm and the guests that she has us come on the show. If you guys remember Jimmy Dennis, that was one of the recommendations by my special co-host tonight, Serena Buffalino. I was introduced by my special co-host tonight, and she's an amazing person. She's an art lover. She's an artist. She's out there. She's an author, and she's an all-around drummer girl. So please welcome to the Unfiltered experience as my special co-host, Patricia Gagic. Patricia, what's going on? Thank you for being here.
Hi. Oh no, this is super cool to be here tonight. And again, this literally, I have just arrived here within 5 minutes. So deep breath, chaos, but I am super stoked to be with you tonight, Christopher. We've known each other for a long time. And of course, to have my super amazing friend and guest tonight. So I'll let you take it away.
Yes. Well, thank you for being here. I'm super honored. We've got even my buddy Barry Dunford in the house. This goes back to my corporate days. Barry's in the house. Thank you, Barry, for being here. I appreciate you, brother, for being that. And Andrea says, welcome, Patricia. So thank you for that.
You.
Yes, our guest tonight, I just had an opportunity to get a hold and talk to him for a few moments before we started this show. Normally, I interview the guests before they come on the show, but because he was a recommendation for you, I just got a chance to talk to him. And tonight, we're going to be having a brilliant conversation about imposter syndrome, about connecting with a deeper sense of self. He's a phenomenal artist. He's in the art world community. And please welcome to the Unfiltered Experience, Mr. Theo Johns. What's going on, Theo? Welcome to the Unfiltered Experience, brother.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, we appreciate you being here. It's going to be an exciting show with my friend Patricia here co-hosting with me. And I just want to kind of really just drop into it. I mean, there's so many amazing things that we can talk about tonight. Talk to us about your journey in the art world and within yourself to get to a place where having this discussion tonight about having a deeper connection to self means so much to you.
Well, I think that my story begins with me as a child. My upbringing was in London. As you can probably hear, I am British, so
a little bit.
I was born into a family that was a very art-based family. My mother is an artist and still is an artist, and she taught art most of her life. And then my father has been on the other side of the art business of being the sort of commercial side. And he started off working in auction houses at Sotheby's. And he sort of grew in the ranks up from just being a sort of the bellboy at the beginning, and sort of became director at the age of 26, and then was sort of head of the department age 27. And so, you know, he was one of these guys who, you know, he was an only child, and he made his way through, and he stormed through. And he was in that generation. It was the sort of the baby boomers, so they had a great time. My grandfather worked at an important London gallery as well, called Nerdler Galleries, and he ran that ship. And my great grandfather also had an antiques and art place in London, and my great great grandfather also had. So it's sort of in the blood. So I was one of the only children that sort of decided, out of four of us, because I have a full sister and two half sister and brother, and they all did sensible jobs and sort of, you know, went into places where they could get paid a salary and get paid monthly. Whereas I decided to follow this path into the art world and work with my father for a bit. And as some listeners may understand and know, that working in family can not always sort of work out that well. And I sort of was sent off to different places to go and work at auction houses. And I feel that, you know, I was very young at the time, and it felt like the right thing to do because I was being told to do it. So I sort of got stuck into it at an early age. And I think I started right at the bottom, and which was great because I sort of have learned so much over my last almost 26 years of working in the art industry. And it sort of feels, I sometimes look back and I think, did I make the right decision? You know, and I think maybe, you know, what would have happened if I'd gone to university and didn't sort of, you know, start working at 16 and do all of these things. Maybe my life would have had a different trajectory. But, you know, as I've come to understand that whatever happened, you know, right. I can't change that now. All I can do is take what I have with me and go forwards. So, and that's a big part of my story of actually coming to understand that, and, you know, understand that, you know, if I'm not happy in a situation, what can I change and what can't I change? You know, because if I try to change the things I can't change, it just drives me insane.
Yeah, I think that's the definition of insanity, where you sit there and we try to change the things that we can't change, hoping, wishing, and praying that some other outcome comes out of that. If you didn't get it in the art world, what do you think you might have got? What type of occupation do you think you might have gone into if you went to a university?
Well, I think I was always very artistic at school, and I have been an artist and sort of do it sometimes. It's something that I do draw and sketch and stuff like that, but I've never really focused on it properly. And I think I remember from school, it was one of my most passionate subjects. Chemistry also was a weird sort of passion that I had. And I can still memorize all of the you know, the chemical reactivity series and all those sort of things. Periodic table and all that sort of stuff, you know.
Yeah.
It's when you go through the metals and you think, okay, I know that it's potassium, magnesium, calcium, aluminium, iron, aluminium, zinc, copper, mercury, silver, and gold. You know, it's like boom, boom, you know, it's like those random things that get stuck in your head.
This is a new piece of news that we did not know about you.
Oh, you didn't know? Oh, well, there we go.
Yeah. So Theo, you sort of have been a rebel in the art world. There's no question about that. So one of the interesting things about you're in New York right now. However, you do live in the Dominican Republic as well.
I do. I have a house there and a family there, which I go back and forth and visit. And so it's an interesting life at the moment. And so, you know, I have my 2 daughters. I have a 1-year-old and a almost 6-year-old. So pretty much any day now. So
that is beautiful. That is beautiful. I have a 6-year-old son that we adopted from birth, and it's been an absolute game changer. I'm 54, so it's later in life for me having kids, and the things that I've learned from my son and the ability to really get still in the moment. Whereas before I was always pontificating about the past and thinking about how I could have done something better, or hypothesizing about the future and what it is that I'm going to do and how I'm going to become successful. Having my son has like really taught me like just to be present in the moment, because that's really where the gifts are at.
And you know what? It's I was just thinking to myself the other day, when I'm out there making a living and doing the stuff I do to make a living, and I suddenly have a moment where I'm feeling as though I really don't want to do what I'm doing, I think, okay, think about what your responsibility is. Who are you providing for? Who are you doing this for? You know, I'm not just doing it for me. I have children. I have 2 daughters. So I need to make sure that I just get up off my ass and get on with it, and sort of, you know, I have that to do.
Table, right?
Yeah, exactly. So for me, it's a massive drive for me. I'm the sort of person that can get I can procrastinate quite a lot sometimes, and I think that's all part of my spiritual malady that I sometimes enter into of saying, you know, this can be done later. But the more and more I realize that when you do things on the spot and you get it done, wow, it's a great feeling.
It is, you know, getting just doing what you didn't think you were going to be able to do, or putting something off for such a period of time and then being able to go get it and do it and check it off your system. That's one of the things that I do as a coach, is getting people to figure out what it is that they're procrastinating about, whether it's a fear of success, a fear of failure, and doing things for the wrong reason. You know, one of the biggest regrets from people living, as written by the lady that wrote the book, The 5 Regrets of the Dying, was that people regretted living the life they thought they were supposed to live rather than truly living the life they wanted to live. And that's what they found out was the reason for the procrastination, because they were putting their ladder up against the wall of success that would belong to somebody else. How did you guys meet? Oh, I'm just interested to see how you and Patty met, and then I've got a couple other questions for you as well.
Okay.
Well, Patty, do you want to, you go for it?
Yes. Okay. So my nephew, Christopher, also had played hockey, and he was living in the States, and he reconnected with Curtis, who is actually one of the founders of Authentify Art. And Christopher said, you know, you really do need to talk to my Auntie Patty, because she's an artist, and you need to talk to her. And so Curtis and I had a phone call, and the next thing I know, I'm in a conversation with Theo. This is going back a few years, and we started talking about doing NFTs, which is a huge part of what you know, the future, the metaverse is all about. And I was invited to participate at the LA NFT show. And so that was the first time. We actually had a year of Zooms, I think, and then finally had the opportunity to meet. And so it's just been blossoming from there. So that's how the connection started. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. And when did I see you when you were down in California? Was that an NFT convention, or was that just an art convention?
You showed up. Yes, yes, that's where we met. So the two of you actually did meet.
Oh, we did. We crossed paths somehow.
You did. You were there. You were in. Now it. See,
I was remembering too. I mean, I met you 10 years ago, obviously, but when I saw you recently down in Los Angeles, I thought that was for an NFT convention, because we walked around and met.
This was it. And this was
Monica was there.
Art. Yes.
And now you say that, I do remember meeting you, Christopher. It was very brief, but I do remember it now.
It was a lot of people.
Yeah. See, look at that. We're one big happy family, all back together.
We are.
Okay, so we got more people in the house. We got Greg. We got some guy named Greg. Do you know this, Patty? Yeah, Greg. Greg says, "Well, hello, Theo and Authentify Art, and hello, Lotus and Christopher."
Hey, Greg.
Thank you for being here, Greg.
A big shout out here. So Greg actually is my partner in crime of art. So, and also drummer. And we were friends. We actually met when we were 12 and 13 years old. And so fast forward a million years, now we have the opportunity to work together. So we are Lotus 97.7. And Lotus is me. 97.7 is because Greg is 97.7% Italian. So we combined that. And he's also professional percussionist and drummer. And so that is one of the reasons why I am now drumming and own 3 drum kits.
3 drum kits. Wow, I own 12 guitars, so we got a band going.
We do.
Wow.
What musical instrument do you play, Theo?
Well, right now I don't really play any musical instrument, although I did spend a long time in my youth playing acoustic guitar.
Yeah, so we got a band together. Let's do it. Let's rock and roll. Let's go set the world on fire with music. Music was one of my major passions. I'm not very good at it. I have music. I have like microphones tattooed. I have guitars tattooed, but all that good stuff. But I want to just jump right into the deep end of the pool. We're talking about, having a deeper connection to ourselves. And I know for me personally, the better situations that I've had, I guess the more affluent situations that I've had to be able to connect with myself are during my lowest times. I mean, I think that's one of the times where we have to get real and raw with ourselves. So tell us about a low point in your life, Theo, where you really got that opportunity to connect with yourself on a level that you weren't really necessarily used to, perhaps.
Well, I think probably I will go back to the time where I used to drink heavily, and alcohol was a good friend for me for quite a few years.
I understand.
And it was a great support in my my twisted thinking brain of back then when I was understanding things in a different way. Greg, I agree with you. Her hair is beautiful.
Oh my God, I'm blushing.
And yeah, it sort of I sort of was in serious denial about the way I used alcohol and also other drugs as well. And it was a very dark, low point in my life. Actually, it's sort of it culminated in my decision that I had been forced into something that I didn't want to do in my work life by my family situation, that I was not good enough, that I wasn't the same as other people. And I sort of went into a downward cycle of doing the job that I knew and knew extremely well how to do. But then I kept on sort of, shooting myself in the foot. I was like saying, I can do this, but I'm going to turn up to a situation late. I'm going to get, I sort of created problems for myself over and over again. When I could see an exit, I wouldn't take it. I would say, no, I'm in control. And that was my biggest problem. I thought that I was in control of who I was. I thought I was in control of my life. I thought literally that I was my own God.
Theo, I'm curious. Did you have a dream? Like, was there inside of you this hidden magical space in your head that while you were going through everything, somehow deep inside of you, you kept saying, but my dream is to be here, or my dream is to do that? I'm curious because you're so accomplished.
I always had this sort of this passion, and I think what I put on myself was that this determination to prove certain members of my family, I won't say which one, wrong. That it was that I was somebody that wanted to sort of escape, release myself, and be my own person. And I felt trapped within the confines of the situation that I was in. I always felt as though I was smarter, quicker, and sort of, slightly more put together in the way that I understood the world than other people. And I felt trapped by that because I kept on finding myself in situations where it's called life, by the way, in situations where I just had to shut up and just do what I needed to do and not sort of think that I knew everything and sort of, take control of situations everywhere I went. That was produced from a side of me that was a side where I felt rejected by most entities and people and things and stuff like that, and I felt that I was always sort of different. I suppose that's the way of saying it. That I was almost, I think one of my things that I understand from my existence is that I'm very good at believing that I am special and different when I'm not. I'm actually just the same as you and everybody else. Although I have a certain way of doing my own thing and I have understandings of the world in my own way, it's just, you know, it got me into a sort of a cycle of not understanding who I was. And I sort of still, you know, I always remembered that from my childhood, I was this sort of fun-loving kid that was sort of, you know, excited about everything, creating, doing things. And I think I stopped myself from sort of, you know, excelling in the things that I loved doing because I was constantly on a different mission about proving to other people certain feelings. So.
I love this, but I feel like Christopher, just hearing what he's saying, you must be sitting there going, I just can't wait to tell you about you, because there's so many things in our lives that have that similarity. And I don't know that Theo knows your story, and I know it's not your interview. However, there is this challenge about how do we incorporate what has happened to us to bring us to a new level of confidence. So I really think that the two of you, I want to hear this. What is the piece of your mind that finally gave you what you would call your highest confidence? Like, where did that come from, or what happened?
It's a great question.
That is a great question. I think one of the things in my life that predominantly sort of occupied my brain was fear, and it was fear of fear. Basically, that's what it boiled down to. And fear is a crazy thing because it's in one's mind it can grow into this enormous monster, and if you let it, and it's, you know, it's about understanding and practicing that, you know, for me it's repetition, and it's repetition with understanding that I can beat that fear because I'm the one that created it. So I think that's important. That was one of the biggest revelations and sort of, you know, alleluia moments that I understood that it was actually me creating all of these things that I was scared of.
But what else helped you? Was there a book? Was there a program? Was there something that actually just hit you over the head that split second and said, oh my God, I am the most amazing person and I'm going to do this?
Well, I like the fact that you said something hit me over the head and made me feel like that, because I was involved in a pretty drastic accident due to my drinking of alcohol. And
tell us about
any
that.
normal person would think that that would be enough to make me stop drinking. I was in hospital for 8 weeks. I was in a coma for 2.5 weeks, an induced coma. I was literally dead because I had pneumonia, I had septicemia, I had internal cranial pressure where my brain was swelling so much that they had to actually remove the front section of my skull to release the pressure. So,
dude.
Yeah. So that was, I still don't know today what actually happened to me. I was just discovered in the road, and thank God I was discovered right next to one of the best neurological hospitals in London. Wow. And they whisked me in there, and the beloved NHS health system of the United Kingdom saved my life. So, you know, not only did I get saved from death, but it was for free, basically. So.
And how old were you? How old were you when you had this accident?
I was how old? I must have been 28, I think it was, or 29. Yeah, 28 or 29. So that is, for me, that's the Kurt Cobain years. It's it's the moment of, you know, which way do I go? This way or this way? You know.
Turn left or turn right.
Yeah. And
so that wasn't enough for you to quit drinking based on that experience?
No. And that's one of the interesting stories for me of why I know I really do have a serious issue with addictive disorders and personality sort of, things like that, is that I finished my treatment in the hospital. They stuck my original bone back in that they had taken out, that they kept in the fridge somewhere. And
like
that
a
was
six-pack
after,
of beer. Like, here's your
exactly.
beer. Give it back to you.
So after, I think it was about 6 weeks, they stuck that back in. And by that time, I'd been in bed so long that all my muscles had disappeared. So I had to learn how to walk again.
Atrophy.
Yeah, it's incredible how quickly your muscles just disappear if you don't use them. And so I had to get back on my feet, get out there, and really sort of feel as though I was sort of rehabilitated. Everybody I knew, my entire family, were like, wow, okay, well, he's reached a point that he's so lucky. The angel saved him. Here's the chance of life that you have been given to start again.
Your karma was really, really playing out there.
Oh, it was seriously playing out.
Seriously.
And so I went out of the hospital and I went back to my apartment where I lived at the time. And I was living by myself because I did have a girlfriend at the time who was, let's say it was a choice made under the influence.
Okay.
And she had vacated my apartment during my time in hospital and didn't even come to see me. So
whoa.
It was a weird situation. So I went back there and I was sitting on my couch and thinking, okay, look at me. I survived this incredible sort of situation. And something in my head said, you should go and celebrate that you survived this, And before I knew it, I was walking down to my local bar where I had always drunk. And actually I drunk the night the accident had happened. That was the start of the evening. And I went in there, and even the proprietors and the owners sort of looked at me and said, Theo, what the hell are you doing here?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Did they serve you? Did they not look at you and say, know what?
They said that they didn't want to serve me, and I said to them that I wanted a drink, and it was my right to choose what I wanted to do. So they said, fair enough. And as I left the hospital, the actual doctors had said to me, not because they knew that I was a heavy drinker, but they said, you can't drink at the moment because you are on anticonvulsants when you leave the hospital.
Right.
So be careful, don't drink. So that was noted very clearly in my head.
So you still went ahead and did it anyway.
Yeah, and I had that drink, and after the second drink, I was on the floor convulsing.
Oh my God!
And I was back in the ambulance and back in the hospital where I just come out of.
Wow!
How long are you? Sorry.
Did you ever regret for taking that drink?
So after 2 days back in the hospital, I came out and I went back to my apartment again. And I sat there and I said, okay. And it wasn't weirdly, it wasn't that moment of sort of drama of the accident of the hospital. It's just that I sat on the sofa and I looked out the window and I was thinking to myself, I said, I'm tired. I'm tired of going through this again and again and again. And it's like this sort of, that moment of clarity that suddenly hit me and said, do I want to lie? Do I want to live, or do I want to die?
You want off the hamster wheel.
Yeah, because I knew that if I continued, that would be it. That would be, for me, it's that time of I'd either end up in some institution, I'd end up in a jail, or I would be kaput.
So you and I had the same actual process. So I'll share what Patricia wants me to share. I mean, essentially, like I told you before we went live, my story was that at the age of 13, I came home from school and found out my mom spent all of the money on rent on trying to save her dying cat. And unfortunately, we became evicted from our house, and we moved into our 1969 Country Squire station wagon with not only myself and my mother, but also 18 cats and 2 dogs. And for the 4 ensuing years, I was in and out of motels, in and out of the car, digging through dumpsters for cans and newspapers and bottles to feed the cats, give my mom her cigarettes and her beer, and then ultimately eat and sometimes find a place to stay. Through those 4 years, I tried to kill myself twice. Fortunately, I sucked at it. I got carjacked one time. There was all these sorts of different things that happened over and over and over again. And all I ever wanted was to be able to go back to school and have a normal life. And ultimately what happened is, I believe God source universe provides you opportunities when you're being tested, like you were being tested as well. And I came back from the liquor store, actually, of all things, and I was staying at this very sleazy motel, not too far away from Disneyland, the happiest place on earth. And I walked in the back part of the motel where it was always dark. There was a side street there, and I came walking in, and this black gentleman walks up to me and he goes, "Hey man, you want to buy a carton of Reds?" And I said, No, bro, I don't smoke Reds. And I tried to keep on walking, and I could tell he was getting frustrated pretty quick. He's like, "No man," he goes, "Come on, I got a carton of Reds for $5." And I said, "Yo dude," I said, "I don't smoke Reds." I said, "I smoke menthols." I said, "If you have a carton of menthols, let me know." And I kept trying to walk away. And then he walked right in front of me, and he got really belligerent. And he goes, "Is it because I'm black?" And I'm not telling you the abbreviated story. I said, "I don't care what color your skin is." I said, "I care what color the pack of cigarettes are, and I don't smoke Marlboro Reds." I said, "I grew up in Inglewood where I was the only white kid in a black neighborhood, so that's not even a factor." And I went to go reach into my back pocket to get my cool menthol cigarettes, my 100s. And as soon as I reached back there, he had a 9mm gun put to my forehead. And he thought I was reaching for a weapon, and he was freshly out of prison, I found out later on, and didn't have very good opportunities with white people. So he was ready to make his mark. And I looked at him, and I was still in the back of the motel. There was no lights. I couldn't really see much of what was going on. And I looked at him, and after the two suicide failed attempts, I sat there and looked him directly in the face. And I said, "If you're going to pull the fucking trigger, pull it." And I just closed my eyes, and I thought I was going to be dead, and I thought it was going to be all over. And then ultimately, a friend of mine, Will, came running out of one of the motel rooms. He's like, no, him and his moms are cool. And I sat there and I took a sigh of relief, and he put the gun down, and we wound up becoming friends somewhat. But from that experience, literally almost having my brains blown out. A couple of days later, I was sitting at the top of the stairs waiting for my mom to come out of her motel room. I actually stayed in another motel room with this other guy who had muscular dystrophy, but that's another story. And honestly, Theo, I was sitting there looking around. I saw the prostitution and the drug dealing, and the cops were coming in and out, and just looked back on my 4 years of my life. And I was doing bad things with bad people. I was drinking, I was smoking, I was doing drugs. I was 17 years old. And I thought, if I don't do something with my life, I'm going to get out of here either in a pine box because I'll be dead, or in the back of a patrol car because I was doing bad things. And again, that whole God source universe starts to open things up. And I was like, I got to get out of here on my own. But I was so afraid to leave my mom. Everybody had deserted her. My half sister had deserted her. Her husband deserted her. And I was the only one there really trying to keep everything going, even though I was, 17 years old at the time, and my mom was in her 40s. And so a guy that lived at the motel as well with me, we worked in a telemarketing job out of this guy's apartment. He closed down his office, and he had to do it out of his apartment. And we went to work this couple of days just after this happened. And he goes, "Well, guys, I got some good news and I got some bad news." And I said to him, "Dude, I've had enough bad news to last me a lifetime. What's up?" He goes, "Well, I know you guys are in this motel situation. I know you've been homeless." He goes, "I have to close up operations. By the way, that's the bad news. I'm going to move it to Texas." He goes, "But what I want to do is leave you my apartment here for you guys to take over. You don't have to come up with a deposit. You don't have to come up with the first and last." He goes, "I just want to give you guys a place that you can stay and kind of have a fresh start in your life." And Robert and I looked at each other, and I get teared up thinking about it. We were like, "Oh my God, we could do this. We can get your brother. We can get so-and-so." It was like in Huntington Beach, California, Surf City. It was a beautiful 2-bedroom apartment, beautiful grounds. I'd never seen anything like so nice. And I'm like, "We could do this. We could do this. We could do this." And then it hit me. I'm like, wait, I'm at this motel with my mom, working 2 jobs to try to keep a roof over her head. There's no way she's going to let me do this. And then long story short, I gave it a couple of days, and I started realizing, again, going back to that decision, if I don't get out of here on my own, if I don't take care of myself and put myself as a priority, I'm going to wind up dead or in jail. And so I wound up telling my mom, and I thought for the first time in my life, she's going to say, "You know what, Chris, I've screwed your life up enough. Please go do this and have an opportunity maybe to go back to school, maybe go to college." And but no, when I told her, she's like, "How could you be so selfish and inconsiderate? What am I supposed to do? I could get hurt here. What is going to happen to the animals?" Because we still had the 18 cats in a 10x10 motel room that nobody ever knew about, which is unbelievable. And again, I had to sit there and think about it for myself. And I made the toughest decision that I ever made in my life, one of the toughest decisions. And I left her in the situation. I still went back and helped her every other night pretty much, but I left that situation. And then as a result, I met an amazing man named Bill White, and he poured into me, and he was like, "Chris, have you ever thought about going back to school?" I'm like, "Dude, I'm 18 years old. There's no way I can go back to school. It's ridiculous. I'm not going to make up high school." Long story short, I went back, got my GED. I didn't even know what the hell that was. Got my GED at 18 years old. And then he says, "What do you think about going to college?" And I'm like, "Dude, really? I was told I was stupid my entire life. I did poorly in school because I had a vision problem and a hearing problem that they never diagnosed." I said, "I thought I was totally stupid." I said, "I got the GED thing so I could still keep dating your daughter. What do you want from me?" And so I just decided, I went to Golden West Community College here in Southern California, and I walked up to the admissions desk with long hair and a leather jacket, flicked my cigarette out, 18 years old, almost feeling like I was 35. And I walked in the door and I said, "Hi, I have no idea what I'm doing here, but I'd like to come to school. Can you please help me?" And 3 hours later, I walked out with school books. And then 12 years later, I walked out with a master's degree. So that's ultimately like the ending of the story, if you will. And then from that point on, I used my story and all my experiences to become a professional speaker and become a life coach, and to do shows like this to kind of tap into people's resources, to have that interconnected sense of self with them. And it sounds like you got to the same point, that you got to that point, like, if I continue doing what I'm going to do, I'm going to wind up down this path. And you made that tough decision. Talk to us about how that impacted your relationships with your family and your friends.
I believe, well, it was interesting because that last time that I had the accident was sort of, in a sense, a relapse for me, because I'd already started trying to stop drinking, and it was in and out, and I was drinking again, stopped drinking. And it was the run up to that I had some pretty bad experiences, and it was just sort of, putting me in a situation where I was the black sheep of the family, and it was, being pushed away further and further and further and further and further by my core members of my family. I mean, my mother was always by my side and always there for me when I needed, but it was getting difficult and it was tricky. My father was completely sort of embarrassed by me and other members of my family, and still today, my half brother and sister sort of have a tricky time with me. Because
in what way?
No, but that's their decision. It's not mine. So I let them be who they are, and I am who I am. So, it's not for me to change the way they are. And so, it was that run up of the year before that big accident, and before I actually stopped since then to now, from having any drugs or alcohol in my system. It's what's interesting is that I went through some really quite shocking experiences. And these were times where, for example, I went to go on a work mission out to Italy for my art business, and I was running a booth in an art fair in Milan, which sounds beautiful and romantic and really nice. And there was me drinking every day in the morning and everything, just to get through the day, because I had created this fear, which I then had to drink to subside, which then created more fear. Boom, it was cycles on cycle. And I was, I went out in the evening there to forget about everything. And, and the more alcohol I put into me, the more I thought I was escaping from that fear. But come the next morning, it was back again with a vengeance. And, I ended up in weird situations where I was being led around the city of Milan and by drug dealers in the nighttime, going to crack houses, and being sexually assaulted, just on this idea that I was with people that understood me. And I was thinking that these people were friends, and that's where I got to, that I thought that, I was so belittling of myself that I thought that I was comfortable and happy in that situation,
Theo, did you ever sit and say to yourself, and I guess we all do at some point in time, but you have to have done this. What is my true purpose of my life? Like, and I'm a super firm believer, without even blinking, that until you have cried enough that you can empty your mind, that cup is full, that you can actually then turn it over, give it away, pour it out somewhere else, that you really can't move forward with your life. So I do know now that you obviously are, I mean, you're very, very brilliant. You're very accomplished. He's also an actor, and has done so many different things. That what part of this right now for you sustains you? Where does this new confidence in you come from? What have you done? What is the trigger? What could you tell all the people here listening to say, like, if you've experienced that, or this is your headspace right now?
I managed to I think the key for me was to understand that, as I said before, that I was the one that created my inhibitions, that I created the fear that stopped me from doing things. I used to be somebody that was petrified of public speaking. I used to be somebody that was worried about talking to anybody that I thought in a relationship, if they were attractive, I would be, beside myself. It's because I thought, the only thing that had helped me do that was the drinks and drugs,
Okay.
When I got sober, I was, left there very raw. And I said to myself, okay, I'm in a situation now where I need to learn new skills that I did not have previously. And it's those new skills that I learned of actually repeating to myself mantras and things of saying that I am very capable, I am good, those affirmations. And it was over and over and over again. It wasn't, I wasn't perfect, but it was the beginning, and it was the growth.
Yeah.
And I think I've got to a point where it's, I've done it so much now that I'm freewheeling now.
Yeah, I appreciate that. As an artist, I mean, you're always out there, whether it's in acting or, doing music, performing, or simply doing the art, you are putting yourself out there. So at certain points, you say to yourself, fear is not my currency. And to get to that place, it's lifetimes. It does take a lifetime to experience all of this, and then be able to stand up and say, I really don't care what any other person thinks about me, feels about me. I would care if I've done something to hurt them, or I have caused them some form of pain and suffering, because that's, not what anybody wants to do. But just as the point of equanimity, to be able to stand in the, to stand on the platform with others who you appreciate, or you find, perhaps they're smarter than you, or they're more accomplished, or they have way more confidence than you do. But at the same time, it's this place where you have to get super comfortable in your skin, and then, yeah.
Absolutely.
And you are obviously now.
Yeah, you gotta flip the fuck it switch. I mean, literally, you got to go, okay, listen, I'm not going to deal with this anymore. I'm not going to let myself be burdened by my own particular thoughts and be isolated in my own prison. And then once you break out of that and you get confident in knowing and understanding that life is unfolding as we go through it, it's in these moments where the greatness is, not in pontificating about the past or worrying about the future. It's just being like right here in this conversation that we're having right now, and being able to say, listen, I may be different, I may be the black sheep or whatever it is, but I'm who I am and I'm comfortable with it. And that's the same place that I had to get to, is honestly, Theo, is the fact that I was a suit and tie speaker, and I was going out there and saying everything else that everybody was saying. And my whole life was predicated on the fact, if I can make you laugh, if I can make you think, if I can over impress you with my corporate job, if I can get money, then I'm safe and I'm secure and I'm happy. And then ultimately, when I got around my coach and she said, you got to get out of this survivor mode situation, I was like, what do you mean I'm in survivor mode? I make great money, I've owned 2 houses, I've got all these things. She goes, no, mentally you're still in that survivor mode, and we got to break yourself out of that. And once I got out of that and flipped the fuck it switch, it was amazing how much more connected and in flow I was with myself and with God's source universe, and just really felt that I was on a mission to be authentic and congruent with who I truly was, as opposed to worrying about, if somebody doesn't like me, then I won't be successful, or if somebody doesn't like me, I won't have money, and things of that nature. And once I dropped into that and settled into it, I left a lot of money and fame and everything else on the table. But through that process, I've been who I am authentically and congruently for so many years now, that I feel that I've gained so many years of my life, because now I'm so much more healthier, and I'm able to be there for my son in such a way that I wouldn't have been, 5 or 10 years ago. Talk to us about that for yourself. What awakening, what clarity did you get as you started transitioning out of the alcoholic that you were and into really embracing who you are now? And what are some of those methods that keep you focused and centered now?
I think you touched upon something very important there. It's the idea of what I thought other people thought of me.
Yeah.
And being able to drop that was one of the biggest things that enabled my freedom, because I felt as though I was ruled about how I was presenting myself to the world, and how I was presenting myself to the people. And I was presenting myself in a way that I thought that they wanted to see.
Yeah. And,
that's so far from the truth. It's unbelievable, because it's another idea of me creating an idea and believing it. When I realized that, for me, what I conjure up in my head, I need to sit it down and give it a bit of a talking to first, and say, give it an interrogation, because it's like, I don't think you're actually, you're not going to fool me this time, because you're telling me stuff that is quite pretty much, you feel completely secure in telling me that is the truth. But how do you know it's the truth? Because have you actually fact checked it? And for me, it's that moment of clarity now of, instead of reacting to the way my thoughts make me want to react, is to actually stop them and say, let's freeze the frame for a second.
Yeah.
Have a look at it and say, is this true, or is this just me again creating a lot of nonsense and I'm believing it again? because for me, that was a massive, massive key of saying, okay, I don't believe actually any of that because I know for a fact that this and this and this and this. So why am I making myself believe that? And these are all things that are sort of deep rooted in me that have, whether it's from some learned experience that I went through that has got sort of stuck in my brain as what I understand the world to be, and I need to re-question myself and, actually put myself into a perspective of saying, just because you believe it to be true doesn't mean it is true. And I think that for me has been a life changer, because it's saying, what about asking other people, asking a friend, asking whoever? And if you can't do that, just give yourself the opportunity to not react immediately to things, because that is where I've made most of my bad decisions. Most of my problems have stemmed from my immediate reaction and my knee-jerk reaction to things that, is my default self from before. And if I'm able to sort of push that to the side and say, just, hold on, I'll come to you in a minute, then everything seems to open up for me.
So with the world is science, and the world is also made up of these, magical fantasy dreams and things. I'm just curious, because I'm also looking at the time.
Sure.
I want to talk a little bit too about Authentify Art and metaverse and this, because after what you've just shared with us, for you to be able to now be in this beyond tech, and I mean, you are a very, very tech person, and your ability to comprehend and understand so many things is it's staggering for us who, I mean, I am nowhere near that level. I have a grasp, but sometimes when these things happen, and after you've shared about having the injury, etc., that you had, like you have obviously tackled or triggered something as well in your mind that is like you're like in this genius zone that other people can't tackle, and you and I have had very, very deep sort of technical conversations. You may not think they're super deep, but I do. And the dictionary is always beside me. What the hell did that mean? And I'm looking, oh yeah, sure, I understand that program. It's like, okay.
Well, I'll give you a quick sort of summary of the art world that I was used to, and one of the reasons why I'm doing what I do now. From having that almost 26 years experience of the art market, international art market, I've seen some extremely foul play in that area. Exactly. It's like well, I can't say that the art market is the only place where that sort of stuff happens, but it's when you're in it, you see the dark belly of it, and you see the things that people have been conned by, the people, and one of the unfortunate things for the art market is that most of the headline news that comes out is negative. It's about people being conned, people being sold a fake, I've seen it happen, and I've seen people do it, and I've seen people take bribes. I've seen people, the whole sort of dark side of it. And one of the reasons why I'm doing what I do now is because I felt like I needed to extract myself from that and get out of that sort of cycle of, it wasn't just my own personal life, but the environment that you're in as well, which can be sort of toxic too after a while. So I said to myself, let's, if I have this opportunity of, I had a change of life where I moved from London to the Dominican Republic. And at that point, it was a sort of a let go of my old work history, start anew. And it was just at that moment where I met Curtis, my colleague from Authentify Art, and he presented me with a vision of using technology to make the art world a more transparent, secure, safer place for not just buyers, but for sellers as well.
Good.
And this is about using current and existing technology to actually link the physical artworks that we see all the time in galleries and auction houses and museums to its digital home of using the blockchain. Now, the blockchain is a wonderful invention that is something that can hold information securely without it being tampered with. So
Mhm.
if whatever you put in that is the truth, it will stay the truth. What I found in the old way of the art market is that data and documentation can be manipulated just as artworks can be to create different stories. And one of the most difficult things to do with especially older art is to get that sort of idea that what you're looking at is the right thing. Even the documentation as well, because people are very apt at forging documents as well as art. So it's about the whole scenario around artworks, making sure that that original receipt is actually the original receipt and not just a JPEG photo of some conjured up image of making you believe it's right.
Right.
So it's providing the blockchain, the platform that Authentify Art works in, that has been created by them. And they come from a background of, interestingly enough, not from the art perspective. They come from a background of a logistics and supply chain sort of technology, which has incredibly given a massive opportunity for somebody like me from the art world and people like them from that background to put the two together to create something that actually is useful and works extremely well in a realistic and practical way in a market that I know so well, from a market that they know so well of the technology. So it's a marriage that really has functioned, because when you look at a lot of software companies now that provide programming and software for the art world, they're always looking at it from a tech point of view and basing it on some idea of what they think the market needs.
Right.
But I've had the opportunity of being from the beginning to actually create it in a way that is actually something that people want and need and built in the right way. So
one aspect of this that I think is, you know, an obstacle, and it's good to talk about that, is the resistance. You know, because you've just talked about the art world. You know, of course, there's a documentary, The Price of Everything, you know, when they talk about art as futures, et cetera, et cetera. And people are bidding and trying to position themselves that they know they're going to have the write-off. So they've already got the next client lined up, you know, for their 24, 2025. So the resistance is also going to be there, because when you are really justifying the value of the artworks or the antiquities, you have given it no escape. So the rest of the world around you that knows all the loopholes, they are going to say, well, is this really what we want? You're tampering with, you know, a way of life in reality.
Absolutely. And from my standpoint here is to say that there are people that operate in a way where their moral compass is slightly off. And I say that in a very British way. And we are presenting an opportunity for people to utilize a way of moving forward in this market in a morally north compass way. And to say that if you wish to wear that integrity on your sleeve, follow us, because this is the way you can do it, and everybody will understand that you are above the rest. And by doing that and building a following on that and saying that, you know, come to me because I do it the right way, it will start to bring people towards them. And it's about what clients want. It's not about how people act. Because if we can make it into the sense that it's what the consumer desires, then the suppliers will have to change to that.
So this is a revolution.
This is a revolution. Yeah, absolutely. And from how I see it is that if you want to be a bad actor, fine, continue to do that, but without us, you know? And eventually you will see that when people are aware of the fact that there is a safe, transparent, clear option of going down versus a slightly dark, shady route where there's people with attitude and look you up and down. It's like, who needs that?
Yeah, nobody needs that stuff. One of the things I think about what you're talking about here, Theo, is all of a sudden my attention has been brought to this whole chat GBT, whatever it is, this artificial intelligence. What are your thoughts on artificial intelligence in art? Because one of the questions that I asked my friend recently, he says, I went to this chat GBT, whatever it was, And he says, I asked it to write an episode of Seinfeld where Jerry becomes the president. And this thing like writes out this whole story. So I said, what about the intellectual property? Like, how are we going to be able to justify like who really comes up with these ideas? So I could see how that could potentially impact the art world. What are your thoughts on that? Or has that been something that's been discussed already?
Yeah, I think firstly, it's the universities of the world are really getting quite worried about this, because this is an ability for their students to produce content which is a unique content, which is not plagiarism.
Yeah.
So for them, they must be beside themselves trying to probably speak with the founders of these chat AI places to say there's got to be a way that we can protect ourselves in this situation. I find it an incredible tool. I think it's an incredible tool for research and for data collection and for sorting out data in ways that you would never think was easily done like it can be today. It's mind-blowing stuff. I think, and this is just in its infancy, it's so nascent that it's something that can be, I think, going forward in the future, can be utilized in an incredible way. Yeah. And I'm just hoping that people are going to take a big lesson from this crypto crash, that technology can be used in the way it's built, designed for the greater good and not for greed. So we're yet again at this position, I think, in time where it's going to be abused. It's going to be used in a bad way for gain. But I think, you know, the underlying belly of this, like we see with the crypto market, is that there is a phoenix to rise out of this, because the technology behind it is all sound and has a great use case scenario if used in the correct way.
Christopher, you know Ken Walls and Craig Deswalt, and of course Ken is a super genius when it comes to all things computer, and I'm part of one of those, you know, their mastermind. And the other night they were talking about the new replacements of the Chat GPT, and some of them that have come out and some that actually Ken has been using for quite a long time.
Yeah.
Jaw-dropping. Jaw-dropping. I won't get into some of the names of them, you know, but to your point, we are looking at a new path, a way of us sort of meandering that will shift and change. Now, at the LA NFT event, there was also, you had invited somebody to, where they had the computer that had sort of sort of like tore apart one of those original, I don't remember if it was a Rembrandt or what painting was it?
What?
Leonardo da Vinci.
It was the Da Vinci. Okay. Tell us a little bit about that process.
This is a process of utilizing a technology that has been around for a while, but presenting it in a way that was never really possible before. This is taking multispectral imaging of ancient artworks and discovering the story behind how those artworks were built, with what materials. And it's basically a way of being able to visualize in a digital sense the painting that you actually see in real life, and then being able to sweep away the layers of paint bit by bit and going deeper into the painting and seeing what pigments were used to create the colors, what lead graphite was used to create the underdrawing, what the structure of the wood was, to see all the woodworms that sort of, you know, destroyed the panel over the years, to see why a painting looks like it does because of its history, you know.
And underneath that one particular one, I think there were elephants.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the way to discover what an artist's original intentions were when they were creating the sketches for the painting on whether it was the canvas or on the wooden panel.
Yeah.
So we're able to see and go right back, strip away the paint to say, okay, they had intended originally to draw an elephant in the background there, but decided to paint it over.
Took it out.
Yeah.
So this is really great, because with Lotus 97.7, of course, you know, we did the series to Pat Metheny and Neil Peart. So Greg and I actually have drum kits that were painted on our canvases, and then we've gone over them, and so I think in the future there will be a lot of curiosity about what was a drum kit doing there, and all of a sudden you have this wisdom auditor, and then all of a sudden now you've got something else going over it. But a lot of artists overpaint and repaint their canvases.
Absolutely.
So, but I think it's a cool tool because you'll be able to really get a gist of what was the mindset, or what was this, historically what was happening at that time.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think, those stories can go from outside influences as well. If it's the people that had commissioned the pieces, they come and visit Leonardo's studio in the middle of when he's painting and say, "Oh God, I don't want that in the corner." What are people going to think in my church if you have that? Let's repaint it and do something else. So he was being paid for this, so he obviously had to do what they were wanting him to do. So it's an added layer of that storytelling behind art of what we had never known, that we were now given a privy insight into seeing that little bit of history that nobody else has ever seen before in its 500-year history. It's like pretty amazing.
It was fascinating.
That is phenomenal. I want to catch this comment right here. Haley said, Haley, thank you for being here. She says, isn't that the same as not knowing if an old painting was Da Vinci or his studio assistant, just digitized? Does it matter whose hands touch the work, or is the idea the art? Great one.
Yeah, that's a very good question, and it's something that is a very contentious question in the art world, because this I don't know if you all were following that painting that sold for $400 million by Leonardo da Vinci in 2017.
Was it the chair?
It was the Salvator Mundi, the Christ figure with the orb.
Okay.
And that was actually discovered by a colleague of mine here in New York at a small auction in New Orleans for $700.
Oh my God, no way.
And by doing and cleaning and stripping away the restorations and examining it just like the way that I had just described, certain scholars and people got together and put together a story to actually say that this is actually by the artist Leonardo, and had been misattributed for so many years throughout its history, that it was eventually rediscovered. And there are still questions about it, because scholarly opinion can be very different. That question,
ego, right?
Yeah, that question that you are is very important, because by looking at how things were constructed underneath, you can actually make informed decisions about which artist was actually involved in it, because we understand that certain artists use certain techniques, certain paints, certain styles, so that the more you can understand about it, the more that you can make a informed decision about whether that attribution and authenticity is actually by that artist or not.
The legitimacy of it. I want to steer us a little bit here really quickly too. So I encouraged Christopher to write a book.
Yep, I'm writing it as we speak.
Okay. And this was going on for a number of years now, because of the incredible shifts and changes in his, there it is, it's going to be out. I'm wondering, Theo, if this is something that, just now hearing so much more about your life. And I mean, we all of us live hoping that we're going to leave a legacy, whether it's going to impact or affect everyone who knows or hears about you. Have you thought about that?
About writing a book?
Yeah,
I have actually weirdly thought about writing a book, because I've just told you a very small few things about my life. There are many other stories to be told, and it's a weird and wonderful life that I've had. And I am, I think, keen to put pen to paper. I think I still have a few chapters left to sort of get through in my real life.
Sure.
And I think there will definitely be a time of when I can probably sit down and put that pen to paper. Maybe I should start it now.
I would highly recommend that, because you're going to start losing stuff in your memory. Because I know that I started writing mine in 2020, and I'm going back through the first rough edit and review, and I'm glad I wrote that, because I'm like, I don't even remember this now. So yeah, I would definitely start making those notes now. And you could do like a, here's my life through this part. Like my story right now is mostly concentrated on my journey with my mother and everything else. I don't talk about my work stuff and dating and stuff like that. So there's a total different side of a memoir that I can actually write. But yeah, I highly recommend doing it, because not only is it you're going to remember the things, but it's very interesting in how your perception of your past, present, and your future comes into play as you're writing. Because I'm trying to take the reader on this emotional journey, but now because my perspective has changed so much about who I am and what and seeing that it all happened for me, for my greater good. I've been interviewed hundreds of times and people say, don't you wish you would have had a normal childhood? And I'm like, well, normal, I don't know. It depends on what your definition of normal is. But when I was in the 7th grade, I was smoking pot. Went from being bullied to being the bullier. So if I would have stayed normal, I could have wound up in prison or jail or all far worse things. So I choose to see that life happened for me. All those different experiences helped me create the band that I am today. And as I've written this, it's really solidified who I am in a more profound way. So I highly recommend everybody to write their book, whether they ever publish it, but to go back and revisit things in intimate detail and to see how you've grown. There's such a feeling of confidence and awareness, and that, like, again, that connection to deeper self that we started off the broadcast with. It's been phenomenal for me. I highly recommend everybody do it. Great. Not easy though.
Not easy. No, I probably think there's going to be a lot of moments where it's going to be quite painful as well. So
yes, because then you have to relive it again. I mean, for me, in vivid detail, remembering all the ups and downs of my mother's journey. I'm even actually now to the point where she's only got a few more weeks to live, so I'm like rewriting that and living that once again, and in all that same perspective and perception. It helps me stay calm. It helps me stay centered, that no matter what it is that I'm going to go through, I've survived 100% of the things that I've been through already. God's not going to afford me the opportunity to go through my life squeaky clean for the rest of my life. So I know things are going to come up, and I know I'm going to have the wherewithal and the ability to handle those storms and to be present and to not be reactive and to be responsive. It's pretty crazy what it is that you can do and a new angle on your life that you can find.
Definitely.
I want to ask Theo, what is the one thing, and I know this is not really fair, but if there's a bucket list, is there this one thing, I'm just curious, that you would love to do? And I mean, from jumping out of a plane to deep sea diving, I have no idea. But is there, or who would you like to meet on this? Like, if you could meet somebody, who would you like to meet?
I think I've met so many weird and wonderful characters over my life that I don't have a burning desire to meet that many people.
Okay.
I sort of, I feel that there are some brilliant people out there that I probably would enjoy having a good conversation with. But I think, what I've traveled quite a lot of the world, but I still haven't traveled to certain places. And I'm not talking about traveling to extreme places. I think it's just about, having the time to be able to really sort of go and explore and feel different cultures. I think the one thing about life is experiencing different cultures, because they are so vastly different, all of them. Every country has its wonderful way of being and its wonderful way of having a society different than the next door neighbor. And for me, that's fascinating, and I love exploring and seeing how people are in different parts of the world. And there's still places I would like to go and see, and sort of, but not just visit for a week, but just to go and sit there for a couple of months and really absorb it, soak it in, which is quite a luxury. I'm sure I will get to a point where that's possible, and I enjoy and take sort of comfort in thinking that will happen quite too. And Greg, yes, I do want drum lessons as well. I think it will definitely be part of my continued education of life.
Wow, Theo, this has been an amazing conversation with you, man. I mean, the time's already flown by. We've been going for an hour and 8 minutes. Patricia, it's been so amazing doing this with you as well. Theo, where can people get a hold of you and continue the conversation about your work and about yourself as a person?
Sure, absolutely. Well, the company that I work for is authentify.art. That's the website you can see on the screen there, authentify.art. And it has some very interesting explanations of what we do and how we're presenting ourselves to the world and to that art world, which is a weird and wonderful and mysterious place. We're here. It's a revolution, and we will be changing it bit by bit. And I'm on the ground talking to as many people as possible and sort of putting the word out there and, you know, getting this thing going. And for me, on a personal level, you can find me on LinkedIn, my full proper name, Theodore Johns. And so you can find me there as well. And if anybody needs any advice on art or anything to do with history of art or anything to do with buying or selling or condition or anything like that, that is my lifeblood and that is what I do. So it can seem daunting to some people, but for me, it's a cinch.
I love it. It's your zone of genius, like Patricia said so eloquently earlier on. There's an amazing book, if you're not familiar with it, by Gay Hendricks, who wrote the book The Big Leap. And in it, he talks about we can either operate in our zone of greatness, our zone of excellence, or our zone of genius. And for me, like in my corporate position and leadership and everything else, my master's degree is in organizational management. My zone of excellence all day long, leading, organizing teams, international logistics and operations. But my zone of genius is being able to do stuff like this, have inspiring conversations and getting people to think differently about their past, present, and their future to really harness who they are and fly their freak flag. So, man, it's been such a pleasure.
I think one of my mottos for myself has always been, you know, why be the tail of the lion when you can be the head of the mouse?
Yes, there you go. I love it. Well, brother, we're going to place you backstage. Patricia and I are going to close out the show, but don't go anywhere because we still want to have a chat with you. But thank you, brother, for this. It's been an honor to have you here on the show.
Well, thank you so much, Christopher, and thanks, Patty.
You're welcome. Don't go anywhere. And there we are, Patty. What's going on? Final thoughts. You're here on the other side of the camera. You're on the other side of the situation. What are your thoughts on the conversation tonight? What are you walking away with as far as take-home items in your brain?
Yeah, like I mean, there's so much information that we didn't even touch on. I mean, I had this whole vision of the conversation going in this other direction to talk about, you know, the metaverse and oh my God, like to have this.
We'll have them back on. We'll have both of you back on.
Yes. But this heartfelt truth. I mean, everybody goes through life bumps and bruises and, you know, and we shadow them. We hide them. We always want everyone to see us for this is who we are. This is what we do. But underneath those layers, as look at how many times you and Scott, I mean, you've had so many incredible, you know, people on the show that when you start digging into what it is that has happened to you. I mean, I wrote Karmic Alibi, gaining expedient wisdom by leaving your excuses behind, because I'd had so many things happen to me in my life. After a while, it just becomes like, you got to have a sense of humor. Like you've got to find a way because you've survived all of this. Right. And I think for Theo, this, you know, sharing, but the, you know, it's almost like you see the person and you say, no, this isn't that didn't happen. No, that doesn't make sense. But, you know, huge kudos, great respect. I mean, he is a very, very, very brilliant man. No question, hands down, and super respected. But I love the fact that we were able to make him laugh too. So one thing I want to say is laughter. We named a painting laughter. I think this is something Greg always says anyways. Laughter is insanity turned inside out.
Yes, I love that. Laughter is insanity turned inside out.
That was one of Greg's lines.
And Mr. Greg says here, his life is a minestrone all covered in cheese.
Okay. Of course.
Oh, we got to get Greg on the show as well. I mean, I totally agree with you. I love how, you know, he's so well spoken and he talks about, you know, with great concern and compassion for his former self and the fact that, you know, he was this alcoholic and he was trying to run from things and trying to paint a different picture in his brain, if you will, pardon the pun, but actually pun intended, to be the person he is now, to have to go through those experiences. And I was just telling somebody the other day, like, you know, most of us have big changes in our life because we've hit the bottom of something. And it's always my desire and my inclination to have these types of conversations for people to have that experience without having to go through that pain. But I love the fact that he just got real with himself and started asking himself different questions, because as the people know that watch this show, I'm a huge fan of, like, when you start asking yourself different questions and you're honest with yourself, you can start to change the trajectory of what it is you're doing. He's like, wow, is this really serving my greater good? Is this really serving who I am? And am I willing to continue going down this rabbit hole and hoping, wishing, and praying that something different happens? And instead, he changed his life around. And now he's a dad of 2 beautiful girls. And he's out there doing what he loves to do. And he's making a difference in the world. And he's creating a legacy that ultimately he's going to be proud of handing down to his daughters and his family. And he's by no means done yet. So it's going to be pretty incredible to see what he does with his gifts and his talents moving forward.
To be able to empower, you know, himself First of all, I mean, just to sit in that, all of that is just infectious. It's like, I want more. I want to hear more. Tell me more so that I can learn something from it. I can get through my own demons.
Yes. And where can people get a hold of you and learn more about you, my dear Patricia? I call you Patty and Patricia. No.
Yes. So I'm doing the karmic art experience, but just patriciakarengagic.com. And always, I'm on LinkedIn. I have a couple Facebook pages, but easy to find me.
And I will put all those links in the show notes for you guys to be able to catch it, whether you guys are listening on the podcast, watching this live, or on the replay. Thank you. We had so many brilliant people commenting on here. We had Robert in the house. We had Jacqueline in the house. We have, of course, Greg in the house. I love this fact. I didn't get a chance to highlight this. He goes, my purpose is to make Patty the next John Bonham. Yeah, that's what I want to see videos. You guys need to come up with a YouTube channel just dedicated to that, to drumming and art. That would be beautiful. I would love that. So many beautiful people in here that and Greg also said here, act and not react. That's something I teach people, is how to respond versus react, and take that emotional equivalent out there and be able to look at something objectively. So I'm glad that's Glenda said that. I'm sorry, I thought it was Greg. My brain is all over the place. Jacqueline asked a great question we can all ponder. What is the meaning of life in a nutshell? Oh boy. The meaning of life is to enjoy it, to expand your horizons, and to go experience all the different things in the world, to have a rounded experience, though, that you ultimately leave a legacy that you're going to be happy and proud of. That was just off the top of my head.
Wow.
We'll have to go back and record that. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, all of you guys, just thank you so much for being here. Of course, I'll go back and comment on your comments. We appreciate you. The contacts to get a hold of Theo are right here. So you just got to click on them and go put those, go connect with them on LinkedIn. I'll put the same in there for you, Patty. And I just appreciate you and honor you and love you, and so grateful to have you in my life. You've introduced me to so many beautiful people who are now a part of my crew, and I just can't wait to see what's next for you, because I love the fact that you're just exploding, and you continue to explode in such a great way, and exploring who you are and finding that new fun again, with being a drummer and everything else, and going to these art exhibits and receiving your awards. I thank you, and I love you so much. I appreciate you for being here, guest hosting with me. I'd love to have you back and do it again.
Absolutely. I loved it. It was great fun. And of course, I'm a super fan. But I think our bottom line is that when you show up like this and you have nothing expected and it's all from the heart, I think that's what makes a difference. And that's why I love you too. I think it always just comes right down to it. And Scott, I mean, I hope you're having an amazing trip. I know he is, but
he is. Have you seen the pictures?
He can. Yes. Oh my gosh. Lions and tigers. And I know, but he can go again, and I'll fill in for him. No problem.
Well, you got a spot. I appreciate you. So what are you doing down there in Florida? Were you allowed to tell us?
Actually, yes. I'm going to the Perez Museum is actually having an acquisition, their 12th anniversary, big event tomorrow evening in Miami. So I'm going as a guest of Northern Trust to celebrate and meet some art people and have some conversations and talk about Authentify art and my own work. And then a couple of days of swimming, just going to chill and then back on a plane and come home. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being here with me. Thank you guys all for being here, whether you're live or on the replay. As always, go back to www.theunfilteredexperience.com. Let us know who it is that you would like to see on the show, what types of subjects you would like us to have us do. When Scott does return, we have mentioned this. I'm not sure if you heard this, Patty, but we're going to start doing seasons of the show. So we're going to take and find a banner subject and then have different guests that come on to support that. So it'll be a season talking about mindset, or a season talking about spiritual connection or chakras or whatever it might be. So we'll have a season. We'll have guest speakers on there, and I'm sure you're going to fall into that category. So it's something new we're doing. We're just going to give it a shot and try it out and continue to have fun. But for you guys out there in radio land and TV land, let us know what it is that you want to see. If you have a person that you've seen on another podcast you think it would be great fit, by all means, just send us a message through theunfilteredexperience.com, and we'd love to entertain that and join the Facebook community. And until then, we will be back here next week. Let's see, who do we have next week on the show? Let me see. I think next week might be a solo show, because that's one of the things people ask, can you tell us who's going to be up on your show next week? And I think, what do we have next week? We have, we have a solo show next week. No, wait. Where am I? What's today? February. Today is
10th.
10th. So It'll be, oh yeah. So we have Linda Dong next Friday night. She's an amazing person, spiritual mentor and whatnot. So she's going to be on the show next Friday night, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We love you guys. Go have a beautiful weekend, and we will see you next time on the Unfiltered Experience. We love you guys.